As the slide says, my name is Brad Underwood, and I'm pleased to give you an update on our stakeholder efforts. I'll make it brief and hopefully meaningful. So the four things that we'd like to touch base on today is our integrated resource plan overview, just a quick alignment there on what we were doing, why we were doing it, and kind of how we did it. Like to provide a brief summary on the portfolios that were created, and then kind of get into the stakeholder engagement efforts, what we did, what we saw, and how we reported it, and then what we interpret our next steps to be. So real quick, brief overview on the IRP. So this is sort of a mouthful up here, but I'll read it briefly. A comprehensive forward-looking decision support tool utilized in evaluating the efficiency of options to serve electrical requirements. And maybe at a more meaningful level, you have sort of all of these variables floating around. You have load that's floating around. You have technology costs that's floating around. You have fuel prices that are moving. How do we make assumptions about each of those different categories and then integrate them in a meaningful way to plan our future? And that's essentially the core of what we're trying to do. The purpose of the plan is that we do intend to file it with the Western Area Power Administration. This is a result of our current contract to receive hydroelectric power from WAPA, and we will submit a written 5-year plan to them. So a little bit of a higher level as we go through the actual integrated resource planning efforts. There's about 7 strategic directives that all sort of have a healthy tension between them, for lack of a better term. The first one is competitive rates. The district has goals to achieve rates of 20% below the regional average. I believe that's been fairly well discussed. Reliability. SD4 historically has been an indication of equivalent availability and SAIDI. As we incorporate increasing amounts of renewables within the portfolio, we sort of make a loose association there that we want to make sure the portfolio responds in a predictable way, in a way that we can operate it successfully. 7 is our environmental stewardship, which dictates to management that 30% of retail sales will come from renewable generation sources. Additionally, it also dictates that we'll be compliant with all environmental laws and standards. Resource planning is the charge that we will periodically look at the compilation of purchase power agreements, demand side management, and our mix of generation sources. So that's charged to management to do periodically, either for a WAPA commitment or as our circumstances dictate within the utility industry. Economic development is center to this. We want to keep rates low so that our community is healthy and thriving, and that the utility is doing their part to support that. Stakeholder outreach and communication. This is the mandate that allows management to go forth and solicit feedback from customer owners for management and board's consideration as we manage our portfolio into the future. And then anything we evaluate, any sort of model we come up with, any sort of product we propose, we want to ensure that it complies with our current enterprise risk management program. Here's a quick look at the resources that we modeled before we get into the portfolio summary. So you've got three sort of technologies listed first. Those are what we would consider gas technologies. Bullet point 4 and 5 are a byproduct of the competitive responses to our request for proposals for new utility grade solar as well as new wind contracts. We also looked at long duration battery storages. Could that be used in a meaningful way within the portfolio, as well as our demand side management program. Real quick, the four sample portfolios that we created to use during the stakeholder process, you can see them itemized on the left there, from blue at the top down to pink, and then sort of the attributes are itemized in the column. So you have a varying percent renewables, either 40 or 50%. All of the portfolios included an economic evaluation of our demand side management programs. They all included incremental wind, and then 2 of the portfolios, yellow included a long duration battery storage, as well as solar in portfolio orange. So real quick baseline on what we socialized. The stakeholder engagement process really had three prongs. There was an electronic prong, there was a written communication prong, and then there was a third prong that was kind of the in-person. So right off the bat here, you can see electronically the different things that we did. We made what we feel a considerable amount of information available on OPPD Listens, OPPD.com, and OPPD The Wire. From a participation level, you can see the stats there that CorpCom has compiled for us. OPPD and OPPD Listens had 1,561 page views. Of those, 1,281 were unique. So if you think about that difference, it would be repeat visitation. You also see some statistics there for social media. Facebook 2997 reached, and Twitter 248,000 impressions. What we're tracking here is when we push information. So we push something to a Twitter account, or they're either a follower, whatever the case may be. We push something to Facebook. Here's the counts that we're tracking as we push the information. And then we did maybe a more deliberate email campaign to what we would call local leaders. So we have state senators that we distributed the information to and notified them that we would be undergoing these efforts. We had congressional representatives that represent the state of Nebraska. There was Omaha Chamber of Commerce, Nebraska Environmental Quality, a significant number of stakeholders that we engage with on a meaningful level. We wanted to reach out to them directly and make sure that they saw that this was going to be going on. As far as the written efforts, so outlets, those that may not be familiar with outlets is the information that we communicate with our customer invoice. So if you get a physical invoice, you get a physical outlet. It's a flyer. It's produced monthly. If you get an electronic invoice, there's a link that you can follow to access outlets electronically. So you can see 365,000 of those distributed to each and every one of our customer owners. We also created a number of posters and banners. These were really helpful if you made it to the open houses or if you couldn't attend. Basically, we had subject matter experts staged throughout the rooms, and then based on their banners, people could read and figure out what this person was here to potentially talk to me about and who do I want to go and engage with. And then finally, we did send 65 media outlet press releases, and then we saw a reaction from 5 considerable media outlets here in the service territory, and they're listed for you at the bottom of the slide. As far as our in-person efforts, we did host 3 open houses. We touched the Metro at UNO, the north side of the service territory in Blair, and then the south side in Syracuse. We tracked external attendees, so non-OPPD individuals that attended those in-person open houses. 46 attendees was our count. And then as far as customer input volume, OPPD Listens, we had 22 comments and requests for information come through that medium. And then at the open houses, there were mechanisms where people that participated, they could write their comments down, and we had 10 of those feedback forms completed at the open houses. What management did to communicate the results of the open houses to the board and senior management was we provided a weekly summary. CorpCom did this. It included questions, comments, and responses to those questions and comments, as well as media and social media reports. So anytime it kind of flared on Twitter or flared on Facebook, CorpCom kind of snapped that and fed it in the weekly report. So here's probably the meatiest of the slides as far as what we learned. So there was a general appreciation for actually having access to subject matter experts here at the district. So people liked being able to access someone, to talk to them, to have bilateral communication on what their questions were, as opposed to maybe an email mechanism where you're sort of limited. And they also liked the presentation of the information. We had quite a few handouts, we had posters, and some of the things that I mentioned previously. Some of the constructive feedback that we received were wanting additional customer input. So there was a population of the attendees that said, hey, we want to see the actual report, and we want to see the modeling and the details and the assumptions that you fed in for load, and that you fed in for power prices, and that you fed in for these different things that we feed into the model. And then in addition, they would have liked more time to review the information. They also prompted us for additional technology. So distributed energy resources, we're all obviously very familiar with that. But then there was sort of this next level of, it was, you have to forgive me my notes. It was hydrogen capture, stored compressed air, kind of from caverns, and then it was also pump hydro. And those two technologies, just a quick example, are highly dependent upon geology and terrain. So we do look at some of those, but for us in this territory, they're fairly expensive. And then a lot of feedback on additional renewables. There was some discussion on, why did you stop at 50%? Why didn't you go higher? And then how we've evaluated solar economics and participation levels with distributed energy. So the next steps for what we'd like to do with this, if you're familiar with the last time we filed the report in 2011, it is fairly substantial. It is labor intensive. We would like to continue our efforts to compile that report, and contractually that report needs to be filed by February the 28th of 2017. Posted on OPPD listens, and WAPA also posts it. You can see other utilities who are customers of WAPA who have made their IRP available via that site. Excuse me. And then also a quick last thought on what is the commitment level of the plan versus what the district actually does. And so I think it's very important to understand that the plan is directional in nature. It does not bind the board or management to any particular resource decision, whether it be supply or a demand side. And if we were going to make those changes to our resource portfolio, we would do them in similar ways that we've done historically. So we brought the demand side management program, the 300 megawatt program, for a board vote. Changes to North Omaha Station as well as Fort Caroline Station were all brought for a board vote, and we would be consistent in the future with how we have done that historically.